In this video, I'm going to share 9 tips that will help you to become a successful student.
Wolftelligence!
Welcome back to Wolftelligence School. In this video, we're going to discuss how to be a successful student. This is the heart of all learning. This is one of the first things that you should have learned in school, but you probably didn't. This is something that should be taught to every student as early in life as possible, but since it's not currently taught in the majority of schools, it's my pleasure to share this now with you. As a student, these tips help me to achieve straight A's from middle school through high school through college. But as we'll discuss a little later in this video, grades aren't the only metric that determine your success as a student, and they may not even be the most important metric to measure your success by. These tips will be geared towards students in middle school, high school, college, and grad school, but they can be applied by any student at any time. As we are always students, we are always learning. Not only will these tips help you to become a better student in school, they will also help you to become a better student of life. Now, let's get into the tips. The first tip is to know your why. This is the foundation of being a successful student. Why do you want to be a successful student? Why is learning to be a successful student important to you? Why does this even matter to you? I encourage you to spend some time thinking about these questions, maybe even writing your answers in a journal if you feel inspired to. This is extremely important, as knowing your why will help you with the other tips that I discuss later in this video. Why do you want to be a successful student? Understand that there are no right or wrong answers. The goal here is to be honest with yourself, to learn more about who you are, to learn more about your deep motivations and desires. Do you want to be a successful student in order to get good grades? If that's the case, then why? Why do you want to get good grades? Is it because you want to go to a good college? Well, then why? Why do you want to go to a good college? Is it because your parents want you to? Or is it because you want to become a doctor and you know that you'll be a better doctor if you go to a good college? You can even go deeper from there and ask, why do you want to be a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer or an entrepreneur, just to name a few possibilities. It may seem silly at first to keep asking yourself, why?
Why?
This will help you dig deeper and get to the core of who you really are. This is something that I wish I spent more time thinking about, introspecting on in high school, as this would have saved me a lot of time and stress and worrying about the wrong things. This tip will also help you greatly with tip number 8, which is, spoiler alert, don't worry or stress too much about grades. This is something that I struggled with in high school, but I learned my lesson once I got to college and shifted my why away from solely focusing on grades to taking care of my mental health, to focusing on my business, and to focusing on getting involved in the community and being involved in more extracurricular activities and clubs. When I was in high school, my why of why I wanted to be a successful student was so that I could get good grades so that I could get into a good college. It didn't really go any deeper than that. My why was based solely on grades, so grades were my number one priority, so I didn't spend too much time on extracurriculars or clubs. I didn't spend much time taking care of my mental health. That wasn't one of my top priorities until I reached college. In my freshman year, I went through depression and anxiety and realized that I needed to make a big change in my priorities. I cared about getting into a good college, not because I had some lofty goal or dream about what I wanted to do with that education. No, it was mostly based on what my parents would think. Now you can see how this played into some of my mental health struggles, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this are struggling with the same thing. My why was not a great why, as it was based on other people's judgments and opinions. A great why, a strong why, has to come from within. Do you want to be a successful student because you have a passion for learning, a passion for acquiring knowledge? Do you want to be a successful student because you dream of being a teacher one day and you know that being a successful student will help you to be the best teacher possible? The possibilities are endless of why you want to be a successful student, and everyone will have different answers. We are all unique. We all have different motivations and desires that drive us. So the first tip is to know your why. Know why you want to be a successful student. Tip 2 is to know your definition of success. Now you're starting to dig a little deeper and understand a little more about why you want to be a successful student. But now it's time to ask yourself, what is my definition of success? What does being a successful student mean to me? Not what does success mean to your friends or family. What does it mean to you? To you. Knowing your definition of success, in addition to knowing your why, is essential if you want to be a successful student. It is so important to know what success means to you. It needs to be specific, something that you can measure to know whether you're living up to your standards or not. Again, we're all unique. We all have different passions and dreams and desires and goals. It's important to know your passions and dreams and desires and goals, but you usually don't find them all at once. You find them as your life unfolds. You find them along the journey. You find them on the path. Having your own definition of success helps you to stop constantly comparing yourself to others. You don't want to use someone else's definition of success to guide your life. Being a successful student means something different to everyone. A lot of people think it means just getting good grades. I used to believe this. I used to truly believe this, but now I know this is wrong. I hope you can start to learn from my mistakes here. Creating a definition of success based solely on grades will not help you to become an all-around successful student. Also, the term good grades is a very broad standard that can mean different things to different people, which is why it's important to be specific about what good grades actually mean to you. Some students may think it means getting all A's and B's. Some students may think it means getting all A's. Some students may think it means just passing all of your classes. Either way, no matter how you choose to define what good grades are, what's the point of getting good grades if it comes at the expense of your mental health? Is it even worth it to get good grades if it means sacrificing your mental health? Is it worth it to get all A's and B's, but you only sleep for an average of 4 hours each night? What if you get good grades, but you don't participate in any extracurricular activities or clubs or teams, or you don't hang out with any friends outside of school? Is that still being a successful student to you? Again, the whole point of this is to define success on your terms. Know your definition of success. This may take a little journaling and brainstorming. It may not come to you immediately. Also, understand that your definition of success will not stay the same. It will change as you learn and grow as a student. Your definition of success as a middle school student will not be the same as your definition of success as a high school student. Your definition of success as a high school student will not be the same as your definition of success as a college student. And even as you graduate college, your definition of success will be even different. Your definition of success is always a work in progress because you yourself are always a work in progress. Putting in the time and effort to create a definition of success for your current self will greatly help you along your journey. When you graduate and move to higher grades and higher levels of education, you'll have this definition of success as a foundation. You'll probably only have to make minor tweaks and changes for the next grade or the next level of education. Also, your definition of success should have several metrics. It shouldn't just be based on one metric, such as getting good grades. Each metric may have a different weight or importance depending on how much of a priority it is to you. Here's a general standard example of a definition of success for middle school, high school, and college students. Getting good grades, participating in extracurricular activities outside of school, getting 8 hours of sleep every night, having a good social life. This is kind of the common example, yet most people don't live up to this standard. One thing that is left out of this common definition of success that I feel needs to be added is taking care of your mental health. This should be as important or more important than getting good grades. Also, with something like having a good social life, that is still very broad and it needs to be specific for what that means to you. It is so important for you to set your own standards that you want to live up to. You don't want to be living up to someone else's standards. You don't want to be living up to someone else's definition of success. Your definition of success should be realistic, but it should also be motivating. It should inspire you to want to be a better student every single day. To be a successful student, the only person you want to compare yourself to is the past you. Are you a better student than you were 5 years ago? Are you a better student than you were 1 year ago? Are you a better student than you were 1 month ago? Are you a better student than you were 1 week ago? Once you write out your definition of success, be sure to share it in the comments below. I'd love to see what your definition of success is, and you never know, it might help somebody else who's watching this video create their own definition of success. The third tip is to take notes. There are so many ways in which you can take notes: with a pen and paper, on your computer, in your mind, on a phone. You choose. I'd highly recommend taking notes with a pen and paper, the old-fashioned way. That's the technique that I used throughout middle school, high school, and college, and that's what worked very well for me. Not only will taking notes help you to learn the material more effectively, but it will also help keep you engaged during class and force you to actually pay attention, which is a problem for many students who, like me, have a very short attention span fan and often get caught in daydreams and thoughts and fantasies during a very boring lecture. Taking notes during class will also force you to identify the most important parts of the teaching, as you won't be able to write down every single thing the teacher says. I know, it takes more effort to actually pay attention and take notes during class than it is to not, but you will save yourself a lot of time and stress and worry later on by this extra effort in the moment. You'll have to learn the material eventually, so wouldn't you rather do it during class, or would you rather do it at 4 a.m. the night before a big exam? Later on, when it's time for a quiz or a test, these notes will save you a lot of time on studying. Also, make sure to have a notebook or a section of a 3-ring binder for each one of your classes so you can keep your notes separate. I know you're probably not the best note taker at the moment, but understand that note taking is a skill that you can get better at over time through practice and through patience and through consistency. The more you take notes, the better you'll get at note taking, and the more you'll be able to develop a style that works for you. I'll be sure to make a video in the future talking about specific note-taking techniques, but for now, just try it. Just try taking notes during class if you currently don't. Tip number 4 is to participate in class and ask questions. I know this one will definitely not be popular, but if you participate in class, if you are actively engaged in the class discussion, if you are taking notes, and if you are asking questions, you are going to save yourself so much time on studying later. You're going to save yourself a lot of all-nighters cramming for exams because you're going to learn the material effortlessly, effectively, and efficiently in this way. It takes a lot more effort to actually pay attention and participate in class and ask questions on top of taking notes. It's a lot easier and takes a lot less effort to just sit back and cruise and not really pay attention and not participate and not take notes. Understand that you'll have to put in the effort at some time to actually learn the material. So wouldn't you rather do it during class when you're required to be there and there's a teacher there who could actually answer your questions if you don't understand some of the material? You're not required to study for 6 or 7 hours a night, but you are required to be in school for those 6 or 7 hours each day. Also, if you participate in class, if you're more engaged and you ask more questions and take notes, it will make class more fun and it will make the time go by quicker. It may even help you develop an interest or even a passion for a subject that you once thought was extremely boring. There's really nothing worse than just being extremely bored during class and it feeling like you've been in that same class for years. This is one cure to this boredom. Also, you'll probably stand out more to your teachers because a lot of students don't actually participate and ask questions. We've set a pretty low bar with our laziness. If you asked just one solid question each class, you'd probably be participating and adding more value to the class than 95% of students. Just one question. Just ask one question each class. There's one potential downside to actually participating in class and asking questions. Since you'll stand out to the teacher, you'll probably also stand out to the rest of the students in the class since, again, nobody really participates and pays attention and asks questions during class. Other students may start to become jealous and throw some insults at you, either to your face or behind your back. Hopefully this doesn't happen to you. This never happened to me in my experience, but it's definitely something to keep your eye out for. If that ever happens, it will be a great lesson in learning how to deal with people who want to pull you down. You always want to rise above that hatred with love. If that ever happens, turn back to your why. Remember why it is that you want to be a successful student. Remember why it is that you participate in class and ask questions and take notes. Remember your definition of success. The 5th tip is to find a study partner or group. This is huge, and this is something that I didn't start to utilize until I reached college. I know that if I had utilized this tip during middle school and high school, not only would it have made learning more fun, but it also would have helped me to connect with more people in my classes. It's a lot more fun to learn when you're learning with a friend or a group of friends who are all in the same class and all on the same level of learning. Having a study partner or study group can be extremely helpful, as you guys could meet for an hour or two the day before a big test to study together. You'll be more motivated to study when you're with a friend or a group of friends than if you're just by yourself at your house. Now, there's always the possibility that you could get sidetracked and lost in conversation and procrastinate, but there's a far greater possibility that if you're studying by yourself, you're going to get sidetracked and bored way too easily and then stop and go watch TV or play video games. It may be tough to find a study partner or group if you're taking classes online and don't know anybody in the class, but you could also view this as an opportunity to try to reach out and meet new people. Having a study partner or study group can be extremely helpful in so many cases. When you're studying together, the process of teaching someone else a topic helps you learn the topic even more. Just a side note, this Wolftelligence School is kind of just like a huge study group for these types of topics. Who wants to be study partners? Also, having a study partner or group can help to keep you accountable for turning in specific assignments and projects and homeworks on time. And they can also remind you about quizzes and tests that are coming up so you can start to study ahead of time so you don't have to cram at the last moment, which leads perfectly into the next tip. The sixth tip is to master your time management. Everyone's busy. We have a million things that we need to do every single day, and it doesn't always feel like we have the time to do everything that we want and need to do. We're always flying around like dragonflies, zipping from task to task to task to task, but we never really stop to think about our time management skills. Just like note-taking, time management is a skill that you can master over time through a lot of practice. I'll definitely make a more in-depth video in the future of how to master your time management, but I'll just give you a couple of tips that could help you right now. First of all, even though this seems completely obvious, we all have the same 24 hours in each day. How you choose to divide this 24 hours is entirely up to you. If you're still in school, then there's probably that 6 or 7 hours that you're required to be in school every single day. If you factor in getting 8 hours of sleep each night, that leaves around 8 to 10 hours of unstructured or free time, which you will choose to use in many different ways, depending on your priorities, depending on what's important to you, and depending on what you have going on. On top of school and sleep, you also spend time eating, bathing, brushing your teeth, doing homework, studying for tests, participating in clubs and playing in sports teams, and hanging out with friends and family, and maybe even a part-time job to make some extra money. Everyone has a lot of commitments to balance in life, and it can definitely get overwhelming at certain points, especially in your junior and senior year of high school when you're determining the next step in your academic or financial career. If you can make a short list of your commitments that you have right now and estimate how much time you spend on them either each day or each week or each month, that could go a long way into mastering your time management. Through doing this, you can start to have a better understanding of how you manage your time currently so you can see what changes you actually want to make in your schedule. This will help you to manage your time better, not only to add in more time for friends and families and extracurricular, but also to add more time for taking care of your mental health. I believe that your mental health and overall well-being should be at the top of your priorities list. But again, it's your priority list, it's your definition of success. It has to be true to you. It has to resonate with you. If you haven't heard about the grades, social life, sleep triangle, it's a common belief many students hold about time management. The belief goes that you can only have two and you'll have to sacrifice the other one. For example, you can get good grades and have a good social life, but you'll never get enough sleep. Or you can have good grades and get enough sleep, but you'll have no social life. From my experience, this triangle is flat out a myth. It is simply untrue. This is a limiting belief that some students use to try to justify why their grades aren't good, or why they get no sleep, or why they have no social life. Wouldn't it be great to get good grades, have a good social life, and get enough sleep? Well, then you should highly consider working on your time management skills. The most important things with time management are knowing your priorities and planning ahead. Again, with the dragonfly analogy, most of us are always busy just zipping from task to task to task. We rarely take a moment to stop and sit still and zoom out and reflect on what our most important priorities are. This mixes very well with knowing your why and knowing your definition of success, which is why I led off with those two in the beginning. What does having good grades mean to you? What does having a good social life mean to you? What does getting enough sleep mean to you? You need to be specific when creating definitions for these things. These definitions must be true to you. Don't make them in comparison to anyone else. This will help you greatly in knowing your priorities. So, if your definition of success as a student involves getting good grades, getting enough sleep, having a good social life, and taking care of your mental health, then which is the most important for you? Are they all equally important, or is there one or two that rise above the rest? Make a list of your metrics of success, ranking them in order from most important to least important for you. This is just one way to help you dig deeper and figure out your top priorities. Once you know your priorities, you'll be able to plan ahead and schedule your time better. It would be helpful to make a schedule and plan out your week so you know what assignments and projects and tests and quizzes you have on the way, as well as any club meetings you have or sports practices or games or time to hang out with friends and family. You should be able to know all of this stuff ahead of time. There are obviously some events in life that just pop up out of nowhere, but those things will not be on this list. Also, when you know your priorities, it will make it a lot easier to cut some things out of your life that you feel are just wasting your time. Your time is valuable. Don't let others waste it. Know the value of of your time. There is no need to stay up till 4 a.m. the night before a big exam cramming when you haven't studied at all. That is not a good use of your time. With better time management skills and planning ahead, you'll be able to spread out the studying for the week or two before the exam so you won't have to do it all the night before. In my entire academic career, I'm proud to say that I never really stayed up past 11 or 12 studying for an exam, and I pretty much got all A's in all of my classes. If you're a person that finds yourself constantly cramming for exams at the last moment, I would highly recommend that you start thinking about your time management skills and start to plan out your schedule more in advance. You should strongly consider planning ahead more, making a schedule, and working on your time management skills. The 7th tip is to do your homework. Mostly. Homework is where you get to practice what you learned in class. Also, if you do your homework and make sure you really understand it, you're going to save a lot of time studying for the test because homework is part of the learning process. If you don't do your homework, not only will it affect your grade negatively, the homework part of your grade, but it'll also increase your stress because you're going to basically have to cram before the exam.
Nice rhyme though.
That is never a fun or effective way of learning, and it will not help you to manage your mental health. Also, you will probably get worse grades on your quizzes and tests if you don't do the homework. That one should be pretty self-explanatory. Sure, there are definitely exceptions to this. There are people that can ace tests without doing any homework or any studying, but those are exceptions. Those people do not speak for the rest of us. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're constantly being lazy and forgetting about doing your homework, that attitude will permeate into the other areas of your life. I say to mostly do your homework because it is unrealistic to expect yourself to do 100% of homework assignments in every single class in your entire academic career. Every teacher is going to make you believe that his or her class is the most important class, and it is to them, but when you start to figure out your priorities, you'll start to realize that certain classes are more important to you than other ones, and that's completely fine. Also, life can get complicated, and things can come up that even if you master your time management skills, you may not be able to do a specific homework assignment for a specific class because something just came up. There are times where it just doesn't make sense to do your homework, and these are usually around family or personal situations. In these cases, it's best to email your teacher ahead of time and let them know what's going on, but that's not always possible. Another scenario where it may not make sense to do one of your homework assignments is you have an extremely busy week with maybe 4 or 5 exams and you're just getting swamped in every single class. It may not make sense to do every single homework assignment for that one week. Again, it's important to know your priorities here. You gotta look at the bigger picture. As a rule of thumb, I'd say to aim for a 90% completion rate for homework. Allow yourself to miss 1 out of 10 for a good excuse, whatever that may be for you. I really wish I had followed this when I was in high school, as I don't think I ever really missed a homework assignment. I think that my homework completion rate was probably over 99%. I often felt that I spent too much time on homework, and a lot of it was really just busy work that was wasting my time, and it wasn't providing anything of value to my life, other than just getting a good grade in the class. It's up to your discretion, your best judgment, whether or not to do a certain homework assignment. And this discretion, just like note-taking and just like time management, is a skill that you're going to build through practice throughout your academic career. And again, it will be a lot easier to build and master this skill when you know your priorities, when you know your why, and when you know your definition of success. The 8th tip is don't worry or stress too much about grades. I know this one might seem counterintuitive. School is a high-stress, high-pressure environment. There's a lot of competition between many students at many schools, and I don't like this at all. I think this is toxic, and it doesn't really help people learn how to be a successful student. All it does is teach them how to manipulate the system in order to get higher grades so they can get a higher GPA, which is really just scoreboard watching. Getting a high GPA, again, will probably help you get into a better college, but most of what it does is that it tests you at how well you are at following directions and memorizing and regurgitating information. This is why you shouldn't worry or stress too much about your grades. Note, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't aim to get good grades, but you shouldn't neglect your mental health in the process of getting good grades. What's the point of being a straight A student if you're depressed? Getting into an Ivy League school isn't going to solve any of your mental health issues. It may be simple to think that just getting good grades will make you happier and less stressed, but that is rarely the case. Often, it is the people that get the best grades that are the most stressed about grades. In my experience, I was way too stressed about grades in high school, and I do believe that was one of the factors that helped me to achieve straight A's and get a high GPA, but I also know that this added a lot of unneeded stress to my life, and it affected my mental health very negatively. I heard over and over again that if you just get good grades, you'll be able to get into whatever college you want, and that is just simply not true. I want to dispel this myth here so you can learn from my experience and not make the same same mistakes I did. Based on my grades, my GPA, my standardized test scores, on paper, I should have been able to get into any single college I wanted to. In reality, however, I got rejected by the majority of schools that I applied to, which again piled onto my mental health issues. It was really disheartening for me to face all this rejection when I had believed what everybody had told me, that just get good grades, get all A's, and you'll be able to go to whatever school that you want to. The truth is, there are far more straight A students than there are spots for these students at the top colleges. Having good grades alone is not what's going to get you into these colleges. It's having leadership experience, and it's being involved in extracurricular activities outside of school. And it also doesn't hurt if one of your parents is an alumni at that school. My biggest issue in high school was that I focused and stressed too much about my grades, and I didn't gain that valuable leadership experience that comes from participating in clubs and teams and other extracurricular activities. Once I got to college, I completely shifted my priorities, doing a 180. I started to stress less about my grades, turning my attention to becoming more involved on campus, getting involved in clubs, taking care of my mental health more, and starting my business. And although I stressed less about my grades and spent less time and effort on my classes, I still got straight A's. My grades were still the exact same as they were in high school, maybe even better. The difference was I had now spent more time working on myself and doing things that I actually enjoyed and building more leadership experience. I spent more time learning about who I really am. I spent more time taking care of my mental health. I spent more time journaling and meditating and getting involved in clubs and starting my own business and just meeting new people and making new friends. Once I reached my sophomore year of college, my definition of success as a student completely shifted, and I really started to live and embody that definition. I hope that short story can show you that you don't have to figure it all out at once. Your priorities are going to shift over time, which is going to shift your definition of success. Once I got to college, I shifted my list of priorities, bumping up my mental health to my number one priority, and then getting involved in extracurriculars and clubs was number two, with grades beneath those two. This shifting of priorities truly helped me to become a successful student, and that's why I'm sharing these tips with you. The ninth and final tip I'll share for this video is to develop a passion for learning and have fun. I know it may not seem like it, but learning is supposed to be fun. I didn't find this out until I got to college and started reading books that truly interested me. The best teachers are the ones that understand that learning is supposed to be fun, and they go out of their way to make class exciting and engaging and entertaining. When you have fun while you're learning, you're more motivated to want to keep doing it. You don't dread reading that book or going to that class because you truly enjoy doing it because it's fun. This is how all education should be, and my goal is to make these classes as entertaining and engaging and educational as possible. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the worst teachers are the ones that make class boring, painfully boring, sometimes so boring that nobody even shows up to class. That would be terrible if nobody showed up to class. No. Imagine if I make these so bad that nobody shows up. Nobody is going to watch a TV show or a movie that they find boring. Nobody is going to pay attention. The same goes with learning. If you're bored during class, it's going to be a lot harder to focus your attention on learning the material. You're probably going to be focusing your attention on all those crazy thoughts and daydreams in your mind because they're more exciting than the boring material you're learning. How many times has that happened to you? Man, that's happened to me so many times I lost count. I lost count in 7th grade. Also, understand it's not 100% the teacher's responsibility to make learning fun. The student is also responsible. I'm going to make a video in the future on how to make learning fun, but I'll give one example here that you should be able to apply. If you're studying for a test, try to turn it into a game. When I was in high school, some teachers would do a Kahoot game in the class before a test to help us study, and those classes were always the most fun and engaging and exciting. I also had a teacher who would do a Jeopardy game to help us study for a class, and that was also fun. Those were the classes that you actually wanted to go to, that you enjoyed and looked forward to going to. One way to try to make learning more fun is to turn it into a game. Maybe even turn it into a friendly competition if you're studying with your study partner or group. Also, developing a passion for the subject you're learning about will automatically make learning more fun. Don't overlook this simple tip. Some people may think learning about mental health is boring, but I don't. I absolutely love learning about mental health because I've developed a passion for it. I've developed this passion for it over time. Understand learned that it didn't just happen immediately. It wasn't fun for me to learn about mental health when I was going through depression and anxiety, but once I finally got out of the abyss and found self-love, when I finally realized how I could apply this stuff into my life to make my life better and to also improve my mental health, that's when I became truly passionate about this type of learning. You can develop this passion for any topic, no matter how boring it may seem on the surface. Again, with the iceberg analogy, only 10% of it is on the surface. You gotta dive deep to explore that 90% that's below the surface. You're going to find a lot of fun there. Nothing is boring. You're the one who makes it boring. Ooh, that's a tough truth. Nothing is boring. You're the one who makes it boring. That's how it be. Here's another example in my life of developing a passion for something I once thought was boring. I had to learn how to edit videos in order to post these on YouTube to make them more exciting and fun and engaging for students. I don't have a passion for video editing. I think it's pretty boring. But I've learned to enjoy it more because video editing is a necessity to make these videos as valuable as possible. It coincides with my why now, which is helping people to learn about mental health and emotional intelligence and self-love to apply this stuff into their lives. If I don't learn how to edit videos to make these videos more interesting and engaging and fun to watch, then people won't find them as valuable and less people will be able to learn about these topics and how to actually apply them in their lives. Use this example to help you develop a passion for learning something that you currently think is very boring. Find a way to connect it with your why. I love how this stuff always connects. All of these tips are intertwined and connected with each other. Having that strong why will help you develop a passion for learning any single topic. Soon, you'll get to the point where you have a passion for learning itself. Remember this, learning never stops. Learning never stops. You will always be learning, so you might as well have fun while you're doing it. Remember how exciting and fun learning was when you were in elementary school? Why can't learning be like that all the time? Don't lose your sense of wonder and amazement as you grow up. The universe is a truly magical place and we're all students here. We're all here to learn and grow together. Without a passion for learning, without having fun, it will be a lot harder to learn, but it is definitely still possible. And lastly, I'm just going to quickly discuss today's homework. Again, remember the homework is always optional. Choose to do it or not. Only do it if you feel like you'll get some value out of it, if you feel like it will help you to become a better student. So here are some of those journaling prompts now. Why do you want to be a successful student? Why is learning to be a successful student important to you? What is your why? What is your motivation? What is your definition of success? What does being a successful student mean to you? Remember when answering these questions to be specific. For taking notes, make sure to have a notebook or a section and a 3-ring binder for each class, as you want to keep all of your notes for each class separate from each other. For participating in class, just try to ask one question every single class. Try to ask one question in every class you have for a single day. If you can do it for that one day, maybe be bold and try to do it every day for a whole week. For the 5th tip, try to find a study partner or group for at least one of your classes. For the 6th tip, for time management, make a list of your metrics of success, ranking them in order from most important to least important for you. This will really help you to know your priorities. For tip 7, do your homework mostly. That one really just speaks for itself. Do your homework.
Mostly.
9 out of 10, 90%. Aim for 90% completion rate. For tip number 8, ask yourself, how stressed are you currently about your grades? Maybe measure it on a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being not stressed at all, 10 being that you're super stressed about grades. And then take it a step further from there. Why are you stressed about your grades? Try to dig a little deeper and figure out why exactly you're stressed about your grades. Remember, the deeper you dig, the more you're going to learn about yourself and the more you're going to get out of this, and the more it will help you in being a successful student. And for the 9th tip, try to become more interested in a topic in school that you're not currently very interested in. Well, that was a lot. I know that was a lot of information and it may have been very overwhelming at certain points, but I hope you got a lot of value from this. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something new that you'll be able to apply in your life and be a successful student. As always, I'll be sharing some of my answers to these journaling prompts or homework assignments down below in the comments section, and I encourage you to share your answers as well. You never know who you may be able to help by simply sharing. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're new, share this with a friend who you think could benefit from this, and let me know your comments down below. My name is Ari from Wolftelligence School, and this was How to Be a Successful Student, the heart of all learning. Also, I have several more tips that I was going to share, but I couldn't include in this video because it would have just been way too long. So if you want me to make a part 2 on this video at some time in the future, definitely let me know. Well, that's all for today. I'll see you next Monday.